Okay, good morning guys. I'm Deo Deloy. I am an English teacher and at the same time I love to teach things related to writing, but I'm also affiliated with different fields related to my um, course. So linguistics, campus journalism, and language teaching, as I've said. Now, the last time I did have a video on writing essays. I hope that some of the students or some of the professionals really watch that video because that would be considered as a preparation for the different things that I'm going to discuss related to academic papers, especially for English for academic and professional purposes. We are entering now the second quarter, so which means most of the activities that we are going to do or the students are going to do are related to academic or technical papers. So first, the first academic papers for um, English for Acad is position paper. I think that would cover 3 to 4 weeks based on the competency. So again and again, the parts of the essays which I discussed the last time are also parts of any academic paper. There's still introduction, body, and conclusion. So if possible, you'll be able to apply those. But the academic papers like position paper are actually more specific and more substantial, and it really requires a lot of facts, a lot of evidences for you to be able to have a support onto that. I will just really discuss that one later. So I just wanted to have a disclaimer. The things that I'm going to say are actually part of my humble research, humble learning. And if you think that some of the statements are actually erroneous, can you just comment for my improvement as well? But then again, I will just try my best to share the humble knowledge that I have on the topic. Now, um, if you're going to what they call this one, if you're going to really analyze, we are not oriented much on position papers or academic papers or our students. So I myself is also a beginner on this one, and it would be really difficult to discuss if I am not going to write my own. So I actually wrote a position paper. I'm not sure if it qualifies with your standards, but the aim is actually just to present to you how it is being done with the structures, and I'm going to discuss that one later then. So in this topic for position paper, I wanted to discuss really the concept of what position paper is all about. I wanted to discuss as well the relevance or importance of this kind of academic paper to the society, to international or local relations, even in politics, law, or in academe, so just the basic one. I want also to discuss the specific parts of a position paper, and I hope I could provide a substantial or a sufficient example so that the students would have guide as they would have their what they call this one writing in the course. So this is not just actually intended for English for academic and professional purposes students, but also for college students who are enrolled in writing classes, and as well as teachers or professionals who are willing to listen and get some learning from me and then transfer that one to the students. But again, do not just consider me as the sole or only reference for your knowledge, because there are other experts who are more advanced, more knowledgeable, who are more technical and academic as far as discussing things related to academic papers, like for example, the position paper. So let me begin now my discussion. So what's the definition of a position paper? So technically, it's an academic paper which presents an argument or claim of an author or an individual towards a particular issue. So it must be based with evidence. It must have a solid foundation of background context or facts, and at the same time, your affirmation or position or stand on a particular issue in order for you to convince your audience to believe in your claims. So it's a bit different from an editorial article or an editorial essay, because by background, editorial articles are actually striking, that you need to present the fact, and then you're going to have a striking opinion so that the audience would really believe on your claims. However, the position paper is more academic. It's calmer. If possible, you could have a very calm flow of the presentation in where you are going to really present the argument with facts, and as well as at the end, if possible, you could provide your own position and solution. So there must be a balance between conviction and respect, in my own opinion, as far as having or making or writing the position paper. So its relevance, it can be presented to local communities, but in most cases, we do position papers, or we write position papers, or scholars write position papers because they wanted to present their ideas to convince the audience that there is really an existing issue, or there is really an existing problem, and that must be proven. That's the reason you are going to have facts, and at the same time, that must be addressed with proper solutions. That's why you are going to send that one for publications, or even send that one to organizations or politicians or authorities which could be which have authority in order to address the things that you wanted to raise. Now, it can be in political campaigns, so possibly, or it can be in parang legal conferences, or to settle things with diplomacy, diplomatic relations. So other countries are really also encouraging students or encouraging professionals to submit or publish position papers in order for their authorities to learn or to discover or to know problems existing in the society. Yun naman yung purpose is that you are going to write something not just because it's a compliance for your subject or for your course you are enrolled to, but rather you are going to write something because you wanted to send a message, you wanted to voice out a particular issue, you wanted a particular person, an authority, an organization to address the things that you are going to, what they call this one, to raise. So yun yung yun yung purpose ng position paper, because you wanted to affirm your opinion and you're going to propose solutions in order for them to be implemented, hopefully or possibly, by the responding authorities. Now, it can also be an instrument of change to better the society. So obviously, once your position paper is read, once your position paper is acknowledged, and that could be an awareness to the authorities to provide solutions to address the, as I've said, to address the needs of the people, of the society regarding a particular issue. Now, let's proceed to the different parts of position paper. So it's the same parts with a typical essay. It has introduction, body, conclusion, and it's nearer to Highland 1990 models, what they call this one, model of argumentative essay. So we have the introduction or the thesis, and then you have the body, which is the argument, and the conclusion, the ending. But for position paper, it's still the same as introduction, body, conclusion, but in a way there are specific parts onto that, and then I just try to, what I call this one, to anong ginawa ko dito? I just try to gather and then make a general format based on my analysis on how a particular basic position paper can be done. So I made this one, so at least we could have a glance on this one. So this is the part, or these are actually the parts of position paper. Nako-conscious ako. So introduction, so you have the background or the issue to be discussed, and then at the same time position. So for your introduction, if possible, you are going to provide the background context. So at least you can establish in the introduction the overview or the macro perspective that a particular problem is really existing. And then you could have different styles in having your introduction. I already mentioned that one in the essay, but for position paper, you can establish your introduction with facts or personal experience or observable facts or, as I've said, on the things that are surrounding you, so you can actually use them as a basis in order for you to establish your introduction. And obviously, at least at the end of the introduction, you could give your position or your stand or your claim, the thing that you are going to, the aim of your argument, the aim of your position paper. Ano ba talaga yung gusto mo? What do you really wanted to discuss in your academic paper or the position paper? Now, for the body, so ito yung sinasabi ko na possible in your body, you could have details, at least the power of 3, the basic 3 points. Yun yung tinatawag natin on the power of 3, even in different activities in oral poem, like for example, yung speech, even in extemporaneous talking. So we are guided with the power of 3 that you're going to discuss 3 points in a particular question and argument. Same with writing. The body could be well established if at least you will be able to provide 3 basic reasons or 3 basic arguments, and then you are going to individually discuss each. So for example, in the body, if you have 3 points, so your first paragraphs would be related to your argument number 1. So if possible, you could have the fact or the background context, and at the same time, you're going to have a position onto that. So what's your argument or your stand? And then you're going to have, again, the argument 2, and then you're going to have another fact and position. And the last one is argument 3, so another fact and another position or claim or stand. So I did tell you that if possible, you are being able to weigh your, you're being able to weigh your points. So for example, if you have 3 points, so you analyze which is the strongest, the stronger, and the strong. So again, strongest, stronger, strong. And then the last one is the conclusion. So you're going to provide generalization or at least grounds that established well the aim, the conclusion of your thought, of your idea or your claim or argument in your position paper. And at the same time, you're going to have the affirmation that you are really standing with the different evidences, with the different things you have presented in your introduction and your body. And you could also have a solution or call to action at the ending part in order to address your issues to specific authorities that you wanted to respond on the claim that you are having in your position paper. So those are the basic parts. Now, for an example, I actually wrote a sample of my position paper for the students also to be guided with what they call this one, how to write or how to craft a position paper. So let me focus now on the TV. So I made this one in order for you to be guided, but please do not really criticize much, because this is just basic output, basic position paper. Just listen how it is being flown, ano ba yung term ko, how it is being crafted. So just what do I call this one, just follow all throughout. So the title of the position paper that I have prepared is actually a position paper for the education system in the Philippines to invest intensively in early childhood learning of English as a second language, or ESL. So by yours truly. So if possible, as a writer, when you're going to choose a topic for your position paper, you must be able to relate onto that particular topic in order for you to establish well the points that you are going to have. Where are you going to head, or where are you going to direct yourself? So the more you know and the more you can relate to your topic, the more you could establish a well discussion onto that. So in my case, if I'm going to tackle about human rights or teenage pregnancies or abortion or same-sex marriage or terrorism or whatsoever, it would be really hard for me to discuss all of those because I could not that really relate much. So my field is actually on the linguistics or the language side. So if possible, I could discuss things related to that. And the position paper of mine should revolve in that particular topic. However, if your professor would specify a particular topic, like for example, the professor would instruct you to write a position paper on abortion, so you don't have actually a choice but to produce an output which is really related to abortion. So in my case, since this is free topic, I choose this particular topic because I believe it's timely and it's really relevant, especially in the education sector. So tips lang for the title, if possible, no matter how long the title is, so at least not 25 or 30 words naman, but not also too short, below 5 words. If possible, in the title, you can already observe your direction, what's really your point, because the clearer your title would be, the better for the readers to understand your direction. So it's not like a feature article, or even a feature article could actually be should be clear. It's debatable to that. But for the position paper, if possible, it must have a clear direction, even in the title. So if you can observe the title, you could really see in here, read in here, that the aim of this particular position paper is to encourage the education system to really invest in the early childhood education. So when we term invest, if you're going to check what they call this one, if you're going to check just kindly zoom in your phone if you wanted to see the entire what do you call this one, paragraphs, but do not worry, I'm going to post this one in my FB account. If you're going to observe the term invest, naka-quoted siya, so single quotation, it's because I wanted to emphasize in here that invest could have operational definition or operational term, that it's not just focusing on the money that that the government, the parents should invest on the early childhood discussion on what they call this one, on financial or monetary aspect, though it's really a major part, but the term invest in here could be related also to other things. So that's the reason I have it quoted. So at least sa title pa lang, makikita natin that there is already a clear direction on ano yung gusto mong mangyari, what do you really wanted to do. So first is the introduction. So I did mention that we could have a lot of ways or styles in order to have our introduction. So my way, or again, my style as an author, I tend to have a one line or one sentence first paragraph because I believe that would be catchy rather. But if possible, it's a risk taking it. So if possible, if you dare to have one sentence at the beginning, it must have a striking thought in order for you to really convince your reader to go reading all throughout with your manuscript. So I have the title in here, much as the government and parents invest in college degrees of their students, why not invest equally or even more in their early childhood education? So I believe that the statement is powerful enough because it would really make us realize that the government, parents, and even teachers, they really invest much more on the college education. Kasi we tend to hear statements like prioritize senior high school, prioritize college education. Prioritize SPED, prioritize DOST classes. But I could not that really, I think that much, or that really hear somebody would prioritize nursery and kindergarten education, where in this particular paper, I believe that we should invest much also in this particular level or in this particular stage of a learner's life, because this is the time where his or her brain is actually flourishing to grace learning based on the different arguments that I will have in my paper. So that's an example of a one-sentence paragraph introductory. Now, I use, aside from one striking statement, I actually use also background. So since this is position paper, aside from facts, one of the ways in order for us to convince our readers to really believe that there is a background context of our position paper would be a personal experience. So this one, let me read. So how well is the English language learning of a 6-year-old child in the Philippines? So that's a question, no? Part of the introduction. So I happen to communicate with a friend, Ms. Anisel B. Manalili, a teacher basic education in Dubai, Middle East, and a diploma holder in early childhood development. And along with our discussion, she revealed that the education system in the said emirate intensively invests in early childhood learning. So parents even find necessary means and ways just to enroll their children in best nursery and kindergarten schools for them to acquire high quality education. So they believe giving the best education for their children as early as 3 or 4-year-old would prepare them for greater opportunities throughout the course of their lives. For teacher Anisol, added that the schools there are highly advanced and the teachers are well trained in different strategies in teaching learners related to English as second language. So language teachers in nurseries and kindergartens put so much efforts in preparing the materials, activities, handouts, diverse on their nature to address the needs of their children. So as an experiencer herself, she even produces binders or children books that are interactive by nature. So the revelation of teacher Anisel has motivated me to write a document to encourage the education sector, parents and teachers in empowering the early English language learning of our children here as early as 4 to 7 years old to know as one top priority. So based on the sharing that we have with Mom and schools there actually investing also much in the early childhood education, because their parents would really believe that providing the best opportunities for the students or for their children as early as 6, 7, or 4 years old up would really prepare them to have a quality life in the future. So I wanted also to state in my position paper, this is already a claim of mine, so this is already my position, that if possible, we are also going to invest much also in the, what I call this one, early childhood education of our children. If you're going to observe, we can really watch television programs or reality TV shows. We could observe there are already 4 or 5 years old kids or children who could memorize the maps of the world, who could enumerate the capital cities of the world, who could, as early as 4, they could already solve algebra and learn music and a lot of things. So sometimes they become more intelligent with high school or college students. So some of them are actually impossible. So aside maybe from the reason that they are gifted already intellectually, it's already in their genetics or in their genes. But I believe that their parents as well are very supportive because they wanted to give the best education to their students, so they also invest much. So in my context, in my proposition, why not also invest onto that? Now, for the critical period, for the body, so I have made 3 points. So first is, ito na yung discussion ko or argument. So bakit kailangan mag-invest in early childhood education? So why are we going to invest in early childhood education? First is the critical period hypothesis. So in here, if you're going to analyze, I prepared here the, what I call this one, the fact, and as well as the position and as well as the standard argument that I wanted to specify for my first argument. So the critical period hypothesis is part of the body is considered to be my argument 1. So it's actually the strongest. So bakit mag-i-invest sa early childhood education? Because that is the time that we could discover the critical period hypothesis or critical period of a child. So what is a critical period? Early childhood development is one of the most important stages to a person's life as far as learning is concerned. This is one of the reasons why John Piaget, 1977, had a thorough or in-depth discussion on children's cognitive learning in his theory of cognitive development, where he presented 4 stages: sensory, motor, preparational, concrete operational, and formal operational. So in this sense, pre-operational is the most crucial by its nature, which he emphasized that children aged 2 to 7 must be provided with the best learning environment in numbers, science, and in language to be specific. So my focus is actually language. So all throughout, I'm going to discuss things about the language development. So dapat sa age 2 to 7, you are going to provide the child with a lot of opportunities because again, that's the time, yung edad na 2 to 7, his or her brain is actually flourishing to what I call this one, accept a lot of learning. So yung age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all throughout, parang follow-up na lang yun. So, if possible, as early as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's the time that you're going to really invest a lot on learning of your children. Because it would be really hard for them to cope up if you're just going to have them learn in the next couple of years of their lives. So, importante yung pre-operational stage, because that's the time again where we could observe the critical period. So to specify the language, ages 2 to puberty are critical years for second language acquisition among children, as emphasized by Benfield and Roberts, as refined by Lenberg in the critical period hypothesis. So they stress that rich language acquisition must take place between these times for a child learns much about the language. So hence, parents and teachers must provide their children with learning environment that offers opportunities and tasks related to early English language acquisition. So the best experienced teachers parents can give to their children is exposure to English. So invest in television programs, interactive videos, and other media that promote the use of English as a second language. Above all, it would be necessary that they would communicate to their children in English during these times. So practicing English in this stage does not mean rehearsal, but utilization. So if you're going to analyze my argument 1, so I have background, fact, and then I have my position, and then I have a bit of what I call this one, a solution on what you are going to do, or the content actually of the position paper. Now, for the second argument ko is the teaching of English consonant and vowel sounds. So, as early as, as early as this stage, probably 4 or 5, if possible, we could actually teach the children the basic consonant vowel sounds of English. But it is always a question is, how about the reality? Are we really teaching our children here in the Philippines the complete or almost complete set of consonant and vowel sounds in English? So if you're going to read the argument in here, so teaching and learning of English consonant and vowel sounds and even diphthongs are under the fields of phonetics and phonology. So the International Phonetic Alphabet has been one of the international systems that accurately suggests the way we should pronounce the sounds of English, according to Hughes and Goudsman. Sounds are different from letters. Letter M is different from sound so as T from T. As for IPA, it suggests more or less 25 consonant sounds, and then you have the vowel sounds and diphthongs as well. So if all of these consonant and vowel sounds would be introduced to the children in their early years, there is a greater chances for them to have basic awareness and skills in pronouncing English words. So discussion on IPA and speech system have been part of the curriculum for bachelor degrees in education and liberal arts language. But the question that still lies behind, how many of our teachers and parents are still teaching sounds through letters and not by sounds themselves? So I believe that there are still parents who teach their children this way. So pronounce cat, C-A-T. If you're going to analyze it, it would be really difficult for a child to pronounce cat if you're going to have the individual units pronounced C-A-T. But if possible, you could teach the children, or you could teach your child this way. Sound k, et, or k, et. In order for you to have what they call this one, good transition, well transition from individual units of sounds to the entire word. So it would really be easy for a child to learn the pronunciation if you're going to have that one that way. So k, it, it. So that's math. It, that's math. So ep, so that's map. So yun. I think I will have discussion also of the consonant and sounds of English soon. So yun. How many are still struggling in teaching sounds properly, and how many of them are capable of applying this knowledge on speech systems of their learners? So the term invest in the title does not only mean investing in materials or equipment for speech development, but this also tackles and empowering our teachers through trainings and seminars on how should sounds and early pronunciation of words be taught properly. So teachers must be given the opportunities to enroll in phonetics and phonology courses for them to have vast knowledge on these fields and how could they apply these in natural setting with the kind of learners. So again, the term invest does not talk about money only, but rather investing in knowledge, particularly for our teachers to be really enrolled in phonetics and phonology class, for them to really teach what they call this one, formally or properly the sounds of English, or in a natural setting. If they have the background skills and knowledge about this particular field, they can actually think of possible intervention or possible activities or opportunities in which they could give that one to their students. So that's the second argument or claim. Now the third claim that I have is that the threat of language fossilization. So if we are actually not trained during our childhood years about the correct pronunciation of sounds, correct presentation of our grammar, correct speaking or the natural way of speaking the language, if we don't have background, or if we only have least background of that, there is really possibility that it would be really difficult for us to speak the language in the later years of our life. So I myself, I'm actually a victim of this because I was not really taught during my 4, 5, 6-year-old about the English language. So if I'm going to listen to my speech now, if I'm going to read also my written outputs, I could really detect some ungrammaticality or erroneous statements because I'm not even sure about the grammar and the correct pronunciation. I also tend to stutter. But if I think if I really learned a lot during my childhood days, I think it was just really easy for me to speak the language naturally. Now, when an individual could hardly speak in English in his or her adolescent or later years in his life, whenever he or she tries to speak in English or she mispronounces sounds or words repeatedly, as it becomes a habit. So, pag yung error becomes habitual na, so possibly he or she may experience language fossilization. So, as proposed by Zelenker, so generally language fossilization refers to habitual use of incorrect language, which may include incorrect pronunciation, like pan for fan, and ungrammatical statements like incorrect use of tenses of verbs, where an individual is already used to it, and that it would be difficult to reverse him or her to proper and correct use of the standard or target language. So if the use of English as second language is not intensively introduced and practiced to children in the critical period where learning is supposed to be flourishing, there may be possibilities they could hardly cope up when they will just learn or practice it in high school or college or later then in the work. So that is why during these stages, parents and teachers must introduce a great foundation in teaching basic or simple grammar in sentence construction, listening, speaking, reading, writing activities to prevent or minimize the effect of language fossilization. So if you're going to have my conclusion, observe the body first. So I have mentioned in here names, facts. So these are considered to be my authorities to really establish the arguments. So you could observe that it's not just a pure opinion or pure position, but there is an essence of there is an essence of factuality. It's evidence based. Now for the conclusion, so again, at least you can establish grounds why you need why there is a need to adjust your position. So the language spiral curriculum in K-12 system is well appreciated for it ideally shows a complete flow of language learning development where grammar and foundational topics have been introduced as early as grades 4 and 5. In the curriculum design, children shall be oriented in the simple basic sentence patterns, simple tenses, and voices of verbs, and basic reading comprehension. But the question is, how about its application in reality? But in this paper's context, however, grades 4 and 5 complement the ages 9 to 11, and these are already beyond critical period. How about the English language learning in nursery and kindergarten? What is the present status? On a hypothetical note, these weaknesses in the system are perhaps some of the factors why Philippines scored 340 in reading, which is below average result in the program for International Student Assessment or PISA, released in December 3, 2019, among participating organizations for economic cooperation and development, OECD countries. But take note yung PISA is, it does not mean it involves or it participates all of the countries in the world. There are just selected countries which participated in that particular assessment, so which means that Philippines is not always behind. Okay, so ranking low in that particular assessment doesn't mean that Philippines rank low overall in the world, because again, not all countries participated in that particular assessment. So English constitutionally is one of the two official languages in the Philippines. So as a second language, it has been being used as a medium in education, communication, business, and broadcasting. So thus, this must be taught intensively again as a top priority, equally with college education. For once, the term invest does not only mean that the state shall invest in facilities, equipment, classrooms, and learning materials for children to provide language learning. This further stresses that its Ministry of Education must invest or provide vast opportunities for language teachers in early childhood education courses, seminars, and trainings about the realities of early childhood learning in developed countries. They should be allowed to see pictures of the bigger world of language learning, and so they can share and apply what they will have acquired to their learners. So as an ending, like in business, why invest late in college if we can invest early childhood education? So that's the general or the overview, that's the general position or claim or argument in my position paper, that if possible, we do not just only focus or plan ensure the college degrees of our children, but much more, we need also to ensure the early education of our children, because that's, again, if not the most important, one of the most important stages of a child's life, because that is the time that his or her brain is very active, very flourishing to accept a lot of learning. So we cannot just easily say na let that particular kinder or nursery play, and then if he or she wants to run in the class or cry in the class, if she don't wanted to listen, if she doesn't wanted to learn, pabayaan mo na lang, just let, because at the end of the day, the higher grades will just teach them, and they will just learn in the higher grades. So it's not, when I hear that particular statement, I really have reactions to that, because I believe that early childhood education must be established well for a child in order for her to prepare him for bigger possibilities, prepare him or her for bigger possibilities, bigger challenges, bigger learnings in the future. So it would be really hard for these children to cope up in the higher years of their lives if they are not prepared well. Imagine there are actually teachers, if they really, teachers, professionals, or parents, that if they really understand the concept of learning development, some of them would really invest in early childhood education, even more expensive than college degrees. So that's actually realities in other contexts. So again, like in business, why invest late if we can invest early? Now you have the different readings in here. So obviously, since you use different resources, you must be able to cite also in the references or readings. So there are ways on how to present your bibliography or your references. So I'm doing the APA format. So you can have this one. So that's the entire sample discussion of a position paper. And I hope that you really learn a lot from this discussion. And I am expecting, especially for my students, that they will be able to produce their own position papers and submit that one to me. So for other students or professionals who wanted to write position paper, you can send also your position paper and I can help you assess. So I think that would be all for today's lesson or today's video tutorial. So I hope that you are going to apply what you have learned from this activity. So thank you guys and good day.